Let's see, that connection didn't work. 541-855-1525.
We're all ready too.
Marvin, are we recording?
Yeah, we're online right now. Okay, we'll call this to order. August 3rd, City of Gold Hill City Council is now come to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Studebaker,
Here.
Councilor Beachheim,
Here.
Councilor Hinckley,
Here.
Councilor Rigney,
Here.
Councilor Palmer, Councilor Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I also want to note for the record that Councilor Palmer has given his proxy vote to Councilor Wilson.
Okay. Should we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any announcements, awards, and proclamations? Public input, we do not have anyone on the docket, or do we?
We do.
Okay.
I have a letter I want to read. The council has all received copies of this letter and the detailed pictures in your packet, so I'm just going to read the initial letter and you have the rest for your review. This letter is from Dana Brinzi, I hope I'm saying that right, 333 6th Avenue. I would like to propose the idea of repairing the tennis courts at the Gold Hill Sports Park and also put forth a request to paint lines on the courts so they can be used for pickleball as well. Pickleball is currently very popular and increasing in players in the Rogue Valley. The tennis courts provide a healthy activity in the sports park. However, the cracks in the playing surface on both courts make them difficult to use. Repairing the cracks so a predictable ball bounce could happen would make the courts more usable. A smooth, unbroken surface would also provide a safer playing arena. The cracks or the weeds growing out of the cracks could cause a player to trip and fall. Pickleball lines could be painted on the tennis courts to extend their appeal and use. Repairing the courts would be ideal, but lines could also be painted on the sections of the court with less cracking. Please see the information that follows about pickleball, including the attached graphic of a pickleball court and the photos of the current surface of the tennis courts at the Gold Hill Sports Park. And she has some info about pickleball along with a letter from a pro pickleballer in support. That's the only thing I have to read for public input. If you'd like to direct me to take any action on that.
Well, you know, the one thing that comes to mind for me is, you know, Lynn and Dan Kellogg are kind of the keepers of the tennis courts.
Okay.
They maintain them, replace the nets, etc. So I think they should definitely be brought into the conversation. Dana had approached me about this, and I guess pickleball, it's one of those that us old people with bad knees can do. It's really, you know, it's like badminton. So,
You know, it's our park, I don't know why they're maintaining it and doing all that.
the same reason why just a few people do most things in this town.
No,
They
but I
need to
mean,
do
who
it
pays
really
for
good.
it? What, I mean, it got repaved a few years ago. Did Kellogg's pay for that?
I believe so,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
And if they're intimately involved.
Excuse me?
They put it in together.
Really? Awesome.
And, you know, if someone is the keeper of something, you know, if there's someone who's always involved in Gold Dust Days, we don't want to suggest a big change to Gold Dust Days without having
Yeah.
this conversation.
Well, if they're gonna do it, they'll have to know about it.
Well, I think one of my major questions on all of this, I don't know enough about pickleball versus tennis. Would the new lines potentially confuse or hinder the use of the tennis courts for the purpose of tennis?
No,
Okay,
they add one line,
okay.
and it's not confusing at all.
That's the question I have. too.
Yeah,
It's just one line to mark off a little front area where you're not supposed to hit the ball. It's called the kitchen.
Okay,
So essentially, you take a tennis court and you can make two
One line
pickleball
to-
courts out of it.
okay.
So on
Okay.
each side, there's two. So in that sense, it would lead to a much bigger, more intensive use of that maybe. And it is appealing, it's popular, it's growing.
So before we get into the weeds on this, you want me
Right.
to look into making this happen, seeing what's going on there? I'll
Yeah,
talk to the
there's-
Kellogg's, I'll
Speaking of
find out.
weeds, there's cracks in the middle of the court, and the weeds are growing up through it, so.
So, okay.
Pay attention.
And this pro, Joel Heller, I guess he's the pro at Rogue Valley Country Club. So he's probably a key person to talk to get your arms around it.
Okay. I'm scared to talk that feedback.
I know, right?
Okay, public hearing, variance request.
Okay, so, as you all know, Counselor Mayor Stu Baker will have to recuse himself from this, so the council needs to decide which one of you will lead this meeting for the variance request.
Well, I can be involved in the meeting, I just can't vote.
No, you
Correct.
need to leave the area. You
Oh.
cannot be on this side of the meeting.
Oh, I can, okay.
You can go sit out there and participate as an applicant, but, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a script, it's up there you just read through the script and we'll work through the steps. So,
I'm willing to do it if people will be patient with me, because I've never led one before, if the rest of the council is fine with that.
I think we'd all be just as bad off as you are.
Good.
Can I stay in my seat, or do I have to sit in Brad's seat?
I suppose you can still sit in your seat.
Okay, there's a script.
Yeah, there's a 2-page script up there. Unless he grabbed it with all his papers.
Oh. Am I the only one with the script?
Yes.
They don't give the rest of us a script. Thank you. They just kind of leave us to our devices. All right. Okay. So we are opening the public hearing at 6:07 p.m. This public hearing is for a variance to the standard of Table 17.20.110A, land uses permitted in the R2 for property located at 420 First Avenue. The parcels are legally described as 36-3W-22BB, tax lots 5701. The owner and applicant is Mighty Rogue Homes, LLC. Copies of the public hearing's opening statements and rules of conduct are on the table. Okay, and then it says that I am supposed to read the public hearing opening statement. Is that somewhere, Jessica?
I have no idea. I didn't actually read that script.
Oh. Yay!
What are you looking for, the opening statement?
Yeah, the opening statement. 'Cause that,
Is part of that, the next item on that list?
if you would like to speak before the council, please sign the sheet on the table. I don't see anything that says an opening statement.
There's not actually a sheet on the table because the public's not allowed in here.
Right, directly on the table.
We do have a number of people who have sent in their opinions and letters that will be gone through, though. Does anyone wish to object to the jurisdiction of the council to hear on this matter? Okay. Does any counselor wish to make any disclosure or abstain from participating or voting on this matter because of the possible financial gain resulting from this application, because you own property within the area entitled to receive notice of this hearing, because you have a direct private interest in the proposal, or because you have determined that you cannot be impartial? And then I'll put into the record that Pro Tem Mayor Brad Studebaker recused himself. Does any counselor need to declare prior contact with the applicant or any party involved in this hearing? If so, please state with whom you've had contact and what was said. If any counselor declares an ex parte communication, please state the parties will have the right to rebut the substance of this communication during their testimony at this hearing. Okay. Has any counselor viewed the property? Do you have any evidence gained from the visit that you want to state for the record? I will state that I have gone to the property and I visited it over this weekend in order to get a visual of the property.
I did too.
Okay, may we have the staff report, please?
Council, I'm Ryan Nolan, a contract planner with Rogue Valley Council of Governments. It's nice to meet two of you for the first time. So as stated, tonight the council is hearing a request for a variance from table 17.20.110A. That table describes the land uses which are permitted in the R2 residential zone. The R2 zone is a two-family residential zone in which single-family detached housing is allowed and duplexes are allowed, but not three-family housing nor multifamily housing. So when it comes to a variance, our code specifically lays out that all variances are to come to the Planning Commission or the City Council acting as the Planning Commission. And City Council shall make a decision after addressing all of the relevant approval criteria and standards. The City Council shall approve with conditions, or deny the requested application for a variance, or they can grant a continuance of the public hearing to a date and time certain if they feel the need to address more questions or follow up on something. So the variance section is found in 17.76.020 of the Municipal Code of Gold Hill. And this is what we're judging this application based on. It says that variances may be granted if the applicant shows that, owing to a special and unusual circumstance related to the property, the literal application of the standards of the applicable land use district would create a hardship to development which is peculiar to the lot size and shape, topography, sensitive lands, or other similar circumstances related to the property over which the applicant has no control, and which are not applicable to other properties in the vicinity, except that no variances to permitted uses shall be granted. So the allowed use in all residential property is residential development. The difference between the zones in Gold Hill is really a matter of density. How many square feet do you need for each unit? So the variance is a request to allow more dwellings per square feet. So there are 3 criteria in the variance section, A, B, and C. So when you make a decision on this request, you really need to look at these criteria and see if they've been met by the applicant. A, there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the land, building, or use referred to in the application, which circumstances or conditions do not apply generally to land, buildings, or uses in the same district. So is there something specific about this site? B, granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights of the petitioner. So is there really a need for the variance? And C, granting of such application will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be outweighed by the adverse effects to the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the property of the applicant, and will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be made detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in said neighborhood. So, will granting the variance cause negative impacts on the neighborhood? So, those are really the 3 criteria that we have in our code regarding a variance. So, our variance standards, I think, are a lot more open than a lot of communities. Some communities have very specific limits, may differ from the standard by X number of feet, something like that. This is really more open to interpretation by the City Council. So I have detailed findings regarding these in the report, which you can see. So I think, go ahead and address them. So the first one, is there something unique about the property? A, the subject parcel has been modified through a lot line adjustment, so it may be a little bit different than the original town plat sized lots. And the modern code today wouldn't allow 4 dwelling units on this small size of a lot in the R2 zone. So there's really no information submitted prior to my staff report that explained why this variance was requested. As part of your packet, you'll see there's a narrative explanation from the developer explaining his point of why this is required or necessary. And again, that's the applicant's burden to prove to the City Council that the variance is needed and won't cause a negative impact. And B, again, it gets to the, is there a need for this? Again, at the time of the staff report writing, there really wasn't any variance or input stating why this was needed. The applicant or developer has submitted a statement addressing that.
I'm sorry, Ryan, would you mind turning that? I don't know how it ended up facing me. I had it facing all the councilors.
Okay.
There you go.
And then C, will there be a detrimental impact on the neighborhood? There are a number of letters that have been submitted. I think there are 5 opposed to the development and 3 plus the applicant in favor. Several of the letters opposed to the variance request reference parking issues. So I think that would be up to the council to determine, would the increased number of dwelling units really have a negative impact in terms of parking or traffic on the neighborhood? So included in your packet is the original site plan that was submitted. It's a very basic outline that shows 2 small squares. And I think it's worth explaining, this application was submitted originally, I think in April of 2019. That was several staff members ago in Gold Hill. And at the time, I think the staff person may have held on to the application, which was this, for quite a while. And at some point, it was made clear to me that it was really important that we deal with this, so I tried to address it. My understanding was that there was an existing small residence above a small garage, and that there was going to be a new building. I didn't have a discussion with the property owner to realize there was a plan to create 4 dwelling units. So when the developer started work, I think somebody at the city realized they were creating 4 dwelling units and said, wait, the zoning doesn't allow it, we really need to stop and go back. So that's why we're here. The very basic site plan was approved, which based on size I thought would be allowable because you could have 1 main dwelling unit and 1 accessory dwelling unit. The property is actually pretty small. It has to be 5,000 square feet to have 2 full-size dwelling units. So it's just under that. So it wouldn't have been actually large enough to have full 2 dwelling units, but it is large enough to have 1 full dwelling unit and an accessory dwelling unit. Nevertheless, this was approved, and I think the applicant thought they had approval for 2 duplexes, and I thought I had given approval for a dwelling unit and an accessory dwelling unit. So that brings us to the hearing tonight. And in conclusion, I'll state that the proposed variance requires the review and the discretion of the City Council to determine whether this is an appropriate development for the site and neighborhood. While residential uses are allowed in the zone, the R2 zone is clearly described as the 2-family residential zone, and as a rule limits the number of dwelling units per lot to 2. In land use hearings, the burden of proof lies with the applicant to prove that the request is warranted and meets the previously approved criteria of the city. In this case, the applicant must prove to the City Council that the site has specific issues that warrant the request and that it is in the best interest of the city to allow the variance to the standards development options, specifically in this case, density allowed in the zone. If the City Council, acting as Planning Commission, is satisfied that the proposal meets the criteria or can meet the criteria with conditions, they may consider approving this application. So a lot of times I try to have a stronger recommendation to a council for a planning application. However, a variance, especially in this case, is really dependent on the review of the City Council. So I think it is allowed by the code to approve the variance, but it really depends on your interpretation of, does it meet those 3 criteria? So with that, if the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
You said that it would be okay to have 2 duplexes if the land was 5,000 square feet?
Correct.
How many square feet is it?
It's 0.11 acre, which is,
Wait, he didn't say 2 duplexes. He said 2 full buildings, not 2 duplexes.
Oh, okay.
correct. But I can figure out the square footage. It's 4,791 square feet.
So the only extra thing that they're doing here, from what I understood, they have an apartment on top of the garage below, and they converted the garage to an apartment in the existing building, so that's made it a duplex?
Apparently, yes. I didn't understand that when I approved the application, but that's my understanding.
So
yes.
it would have been okay if it was just the apartment in the duplex? Because that had been approved
So
from what you said.
what would be allowed is a primary residence and an accessory dwelling unit under the basic standards.
Neither
So
one
2
being
dwellings total on the lot.
Correct, with a limited size on the accessory dwelling unit.
And Dr. Brooks wants to put 4 dwellings on it.
So My question is, it's my understanding that it's an R2 lot. If this were an R3 lot, it would be allowed, the 4 dwelling units would be allowed on an R3 lot. So then my question is, the size of this lot by R3 standards could never be an R3 standard because it's too small.
It couldn't be created as a new
Right,
R3
right. So
lot.
basically what
But
we're
it also
asking.
is too small for an R2 lot. So
Okay,
we have very small historic lots in the center of town.
right. So my question is what we're basically asking for is a variance to make what is an R2 lot into an R3 lot, when really it should be an R1 lot.
What it should be is up to the council. It's an R2.
I'm
Yeah.
asking by standards here in Oregon.
Yes, if
This
it
is
were,
an
yeah.
R1 lot.
So if it were created brand new
Right.
in Gold Hill today, it's only large enough to be an R1,
Right,
correct?
so it's by standards an R1 lot that has the dwellings of an R2 lot, and they're asking to create an R3 lot.
Well, right now, I think I don't know if it's finalized, but I think it has 2 small dwelling units. So that could be R1 or R2, but I think what you're saying is correct, yes.
There would be, what they're asking for is 2 duplexes, is that right?
Yes.
Right.
So would 2 duplexes be an R1 lot?
That would have to be at least that would be an R3 lot.
R3,
Yeah.
which is what she was saying.
Any other counselors have questions? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
The 3 criteria, would you mind going over this here, that we have to look at?
Certainly. Okay, so in A, there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the land, building, or use referred to in the application, which circumstances or conditions do not apply generally to land, buildings, or uses in the same district. B, granting the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights of the petitioner. C, granting of such application will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be outweighed by the adverse effects to the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the property of the applicant, and will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in said neighborhood.
Counselor Rigney, did you have any questions?
No, I'd just like to, on that size of a lot, the parking spaces, and I live on First Avenue right over there too. I walk by it every day. I look at it and say, I don't know, it's just,
Are we in
that's a
discussion
tight
mode, or-
spot.
No, it's not discussion mode.
No, if you'd have questions for Ryan at this
Yeah,
time.
Brian, yeah, let me hold off.
Okay.
No questions yet.
Okay, then, Ryan, if you could have a seat, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to applicant testimony. Will the applicant or a representative come forward? And please limit your presentation to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Here's my timer.
Hi, I'm Tom Brooks. First, before I start, I got a couple compliments just for you guys here. Downtown, the last couple of years is amazing. So thank you guys for all that. Along with that, you guys have an employee, Tony, has been amazing. I've dealt with him so many times, watched him clean up stuff, go out of his way to take care of downtown. So that's a compliment to you guys. And thank you for being here. I know you guys are volunteers. It's a hard spot to be sometimes. Okay, this 420 or 420 lot, we started out with this, like I say, I think in April last year. We went through the city here. We got our, what we thought was all okay stuff, went through the city. everything got reviewed and said, okay, we went to the county, that got all okayed with plans of the buildings. We have plans of both buildings that went through and stamped by both Gold Hill and the county. So we've gone through, and that was a two-step deal. We were doing the remodel of the downstairs. We have a garage above, and above the garage is a one-bedroom and then a garage down below. The footprint for that building on the ground is 480 feet. That's 10% of what the lot is on there for size of what that building is. That will come up in a minute again. So anyways, we went through the steps, and somehow there was, through the change of the City of Gold Hill, somebody missed something here or there. It happens. So we went ahead and we are almost done with the bottom remodel. We have the utilities put in, bought and paid for, put in for the second unit are already in. And then we are ready to start the next, and we got a stop order on that. So that's where we are. Now we have, the deal is, okay, the original zoning was R2, should have been R3 by the Gold Hill standards on there. So to address that, you guys have a map. I think you guys all have the colored map of what's on there. And the buildings, the existing buildings 20 by 24.
If you look in the back where the letters, they're far, the first letter is from Dr. Brooks, and he's enclosed this color map that he's telling you about.
So that's a plot map of the lot. The existing building is the one that does sit on the outside of the property line towards the alleyway or Riverside. That building was built in 1910. There was a complaint in a couple of the letters opposing that, that shouldn't be there, but it's been there since 1910, so precedence there. So you can see the size, and you can see the size of the building alone, if you take off the new duplex, what the size of that lot is. It's an odd-shaped lot in that it's 55 on the back end, 47 point something on the front, by 100 lot. So it is not far off your 50 by 100 is what you're looking for your 5,000 square feet. So we were going to duplicate what we have on the back, the east duplex to the north duplex. Just duplicate that size. It's 20 foot by 24. That would put the footprint of the buildings at 20% of what the lot is. Nowhere near what, if you look around at the multi-family dwellings or the duplexes are, either side from that. So it's a very small footprint. They are a two-story. They're one bedroom, one bath, 480 square foot units is what we're doing with that. Very small. The parking is the other big issue that people are talking about. With an R3, if we can get that variance, it's 1.6 parking spots per unit. We can get 8 off the street, not on the street at all. All this parking on here is on the lot. We still have, as everybody else uses, as everybody has said, both directions, they all park on the street on First Avenue. It's there. Ours is accommodated all within the lot on there. There's a 20-foot ingress egress that goes 20 plus that runs all the way from First all the way back to Riverside. So it can accommodate in and out, ingress, egress, not all one in and out. So it makes it very comfortable, those living there, getting in and out on there. These parking lots are all standardized by the code here in Gold Hill. So it can acquire, we have plenty of parking for all 4 units if you guys let us do this. Like I say, the units are small, 1 bedroom, 1 bath units on there. So unit size is small. So this is, the circumstances, unusual circumstances. Very small units, very small coverage of existing lot size, even though the lot size is smaller than what's normally there. Plenty of parking for on the lot, not on the street. So it's not going to hurt any of that for parking on the street, which is a problem on First Avenue. Nobody has any garages. Everybody's parking right on the street on First Avenue there. From more of a global picture here, we're Oregon, and most of the urban growth boundary stuff is pushing for higher density dwellings. Higher density, lower cost dwellings. And that's exactly what this is. Very small units, higher density, yes, it is higher density, lower cost, without affecting adjacent people, with the parking is the big one. The traffic, you're going to have a little more traffic, but I'm down there all the time. Traffic is not a big issue on there. If you want to look at what other areas are doing, Grants Pass, they're single-family dwelling. Any single-family dwelling in Grants Pass can have a family unit, and then they can have an attached ADU, and then they can have another separate ADU. They can have 3 dwellings on a single-family unit there. Grants Pass is going even further. They are now changing their zoning laws. They are now requiring what they call I think it's 4.3. They're designating in all over the place in Grants Pass to have multi-family units. The emphasis is higher density within the urban growth boundary. That's what Oregon is really pushing for. And to back that up, it hasn't been long. I don't know what the stats are right now, but I'm a member of the Southern Oregon Rentals Association. We had less than a 1% vacancy rate. There is no housing, and there is no low income housing, and that's not low income housing what I'm saying, but it is, 1 bedroom is going to be less expensive than a big 5-bedroom house that people can rent. The need is out there. The benefits for the city are huge. We're now taking what we've done is take a 1 unit, 1 bedroom, 1 bath unit, and you guys are receiving your generalized $100 a month water and sewer deal. This now turns this into $400 versus $100 a month for just sewer and water. Not to mention the taxes that are on this, the increase in value of the property, we're putting a new structure on. You can look and see what I've done in town as far as quality of building. We just got done remodeling the duplex right across the road from there on First Avenue. I mean, you can look at houses we built up at Jacoby. I mean, I'm putting in a higher quality house. I'm not just throwing up a cheap rental. That's not what the deal is. I have property all around this lot here. Like I said, I have the duplex apart. I have my office building. It's there on the corner of Estramato. Second, I'm involved with the lot two down from that. So I'm not in there to put a bunch of garbage. It's in there to put some nice residential areas, houses in the areas. So what's the benefit again in the city is obviously you're sharing the cost of running the city, providing the water and sewer. One of the objectives was the sewer down there, and my understanding that is a sewer problem with the new houses that went in there. That's supposed to be taken care of this year. So that sewer issue, and I don't even know if it would affect our building even if you did it or not, the bottleneck was past our place, is already taken care of. So again, it's for not just this year, next year, but for the next 100 years, we're sharing the cost of what it takes to run this city and what it takes to take care of all the maintenance along the way. Taxes, sewer and water bills. It's a really benefit for the city. Yeah, and then somebody else made a comment, one of the comments was about making a profit on this and all that, and I'll say, well, I've invested money in Gold Hill now for 35 years. I've been here. Yes, I've made money in Gold Hill, but I've invested in Gold Hill. So, you know, I'm here not to make it worse, I'm here to make it better. So I think that's about what I have to say.
Okay, then, does the council have any questions of the applicant? Let's just go around in the circle in that way. Janet?
No.
So my question to Ryan originally was about zoning. So my question is, when you bought this property, it was an R2. You knew it was an R2. When
I had a misunderstanding of what R2 meant, though, because you look at the stats, it says multifamily dwellings, R2, and that actually should be modified in your bylaws. 'Cause to me, that's, you know, it doesn't say, okay, you can put 2 units on it. It says multifamily over and over again in there. So that was, I made that mistake of not really knowing what that was.
when the original structure when was the original structure made into a duplex?
We're just doing it. That was part of this application.
Okay.
The upstairs was a 1-bedroom apartment built, the building was built in 1910. I'm not sure, there's been probably some modifications over the years, I'm sure. So we purchased it, and part of this application was turn the garage into a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and build another duplicate building right on the deal, such a small footprint, to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath down below, 1-bedroom, 1-bath up above.
Yeah, what I'm trying to understand is, because it was my understanding that the renovation was already done.
It's not quite done yet.
Okay, so it's not done yet, and this was a part of this application for that renovation?
Absolutely, with plans for both units were in and stamped, the
Okay.
duplex.
But we don't have a copy of those plans. All the
Right.
I have a
plans we
copy
have-
of those plans stamped from both the city and for the county. As far as we're
I'm just trying to
concerned,
understand where the miscommunication happened, because what I have
I-
is a piece of paper that has 2 squares on it.
well,
and
there's
no
whole,
explanation.
there's whole sets of plans for
Right.
each building, all the remodel, and it passed through the county, and they stamped all the codes and everything.
That's
Yes.
that's what, because I'm kind of like, where was it declared that this was a duplex and this was a duplex?
With the plans.
Okay.
Yeah, the plans came with it. The plans came with it as when you turn it in, not just a plot plan. That's just a plot, aerial view, what you see up above. Bird's eye view. That's what that's for.
Malia,
So-
do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So when you look at that lot, there's the building in the back that you're remodeling now. Was there another dwelling in front of it at one time that's been torn down, or was there
No,
never just?
not that I'm aware of, Malia, no.
So the only thing on that property has been a garage with an apartment over it?
I think originally the house next to it was built, and they built the garage, and I guess they might have put that upstairs dwelling at the same time. Then somebody came back and split. There's a lot to the right of that house from First Street and to the left. 50 by 100 was original, and that's what you guys have, 50 by 100. So I'm not exactly sure,
So it sounds like somebody owned both lots, maybe?
somebody owned all 3. It was
And
with
put
the house.
The house on one lot, the garage on the next lot.
Well, it was probably one lot at the time. It's all the 3 lots.
I thought they were originally platted as that size.
I don't know. I don't know this. I would guess not. It didn't.
As I remember the original city map, it was.
Well, then there was 3 50-foot lots across there. I've seen those maps, but I don't know when it was. This was in 1910, so I don't.
Right, well, no, the original city map, which is like from 1890 or something. you just sent me.
1884, it's
1884.
hanging up on the wall over there.
It shows those lots.
3 lots.
I think this one was split just because the property line goes around the house.
Right.
Yeah, that's been
So-
changed because they had to have their 5-foot
Okay.
easement around there. So I know it's been altered, is what I'm saying. So
So I don't know if this is so much of a question. I guess it's not really a question. I'll save it for discussion.
okay.
Okay. Counselor Rigney?
Yeah, Tom, when are you gonna tie in water and sewer on the riverside, the backside of the property?
It's in already. And that sewer is, like I say, it's supposed to be all changed here next week. You guys know that better than I do. On it, the water's in, the sewer's in for, like, we got 4 hookups already in on it.
I'm good.
Okay?
If you'd like to have a seat, and we'll move on with the rest of it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Can I make a comment as part of this presentation?
I think you,
Yeah.
It seems to me, well, there's several issues. Number one, there was a misunderstanding on the zoning. R2 throughout Jackson County is multifamily. We did a house in Roe River, it was R2. We could have put a triplex on it or bigger, and we chose to put a single family. And so when we read these regulations on 3 different pages, page 2, page 8, and page 10, it listed multifamily characteristics and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit sloppy that way. And that's where we didn't originally understand that it was 2 families.
Brad, can you
Excuse me.
move closer to the mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
And then with regard to the size, and I think that's listed in Tom's letter, there's a citation 1720, I think it's 060, where it talks about the minimum size for these things. For a second building, they require 4,000 square feet for the first and 1,200 for the second. So that's 5,200. So this lot at 5,000 approximately is plus or minus 5% from what they say is the minimum size for 2 buildings. And the real kicker for us was full plot maps, this size, multi-pages on an application were approved. We paid the fees, we incurred the costs of developing things, and then, halfway through the project, someone says, hey, wait a minute, they're gonna add more parking. So the negative impact to the neighbors, and again, we're very invested in Gold Hill. We have property here and we want it to get better. I think this is very in keeping with the direction the city's going, which is when we approve the ADU to allow for greater density at cost-effective prices. So we can have smaller units. Grants Pass, some of the other communities are going in this direction. It's certainly been the direction from LCDC, state of Oregon. Increasing density inside limits, reducing outside. So we feel like, 5,000, 5,200, that's in the ballpark. That's less than 10% or 5% of the lot size that they say is a minimum. And I think, importantly, most people said, boy, there's just not going to be space on that lot for parking. And if you added a bunch of parking to Riverside or First Avenue, that could be a problem. But in fact, as the plot shows, and Tom, did you hand that in with, do they all have that? Okay, so you've got the color map. So it clearly shows that based on regulations for size of parking spaces, all of those spaces could be incorporated within the lot. And in fact, rules dictate 1.5 spots per dwelling, which would be 6 spaces. And we have graphed out to provide 8 spaces, and there's still plenty of room, with an ingress-egress road between the 2 roads. Okay, thank you.
Actually, since you spoke, I know there was a question from a counselor.
So you're saying, wait, you're a partner in this venture?
Yes,
You're a financial partner in this venture?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's why he recused himself from the discussion.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, we will now call on those who have signed up to testify in support of the applicant, or a group can be selected spokesperson to speak longer, but the total time allowed for this part of the hearing is 15 minutes. Since we're under COVID-19 restrictions, we have had people pre-supply their support via letter. Jessica, would you like to read the letters in support of the applicant?
No, I would not. It's a lot of
Do
reading.
you want me to read it?
Well, she gave us all copies, so she wouldn't have to.
Yeah, we
read them
talked
all.
about it before the meeting. All of the counselors have copies of the letters. I'm just going to summarize them rather than.
Okay,
read
yeah,
them
if
all.
you'd like to summarize them.
Yeah. So the first one in support is from Tori Brooks of Brooks Construction, who is the contractor that developed the plan and received approval for the proposed new building. And he covers a lot of the same points. The lot's had a building on it for years. Where it runs over the city property, like, it's been over the line for years, so it was grandfathered in. The people who don't think there's a lot of room for parking, they've already told you there's plenty of room for parking off-street. And the city and county have already signed off and approved this construction. But I just want to clarify, Ryan, all you signed off on was that plot plan that you have? You have,
I guess to answer that, there was a different staff person here. Things were a little hectic, and it was right after Dick Converse had left and I had started. I don't recall stamping plans, and there's no copy of them here. But it could have also been that with the previous staff person in discussion, she would say, what do you need? And basically, for most planning activities, I don't need all of the detailed drawings. I need the site plan. So maybe I got the site plan, and I can't say for certain what came here and what was approved by Gold
I
Hill.
would say that when people have gone to the county before with plans that we didn't sign off on, they have called here, so you probably signed them if the county signed them.
They may have come back. You have to
Yeah.
have every page signed.
Right. And
So
I
maybe
know
some of
recently other people have taken things to the county and they weren't signed by the city, and so they had to come back here and get them signed. So I don't think the county would approve them if you didn't sign them, but I don't have a copy of it.
Right. Okay.
Okay. All right, the next one is from, I don't know how to say that, Jeff Naimi, 131 Estramato Street. I have no objections to the proposed building of apartments. I live about a half block away, and I think it would be a good thing for Gold Hill. There is very little traffic in town, and I don't think this change would even be noticeable. I'm looking forward to completion, so my mother living near me as she is aged, and I want to keep a close eye on her. I'm glad we will have some affordable housing nearby, which is hard to find. The next one is from Abram Haddon, 461 First Avenue. He lives across the street from the lot in question and has known Tom Brooks for many years. He does quality construction, and after he puts up a building, the entire block will look better. And parking won't get worse because all the parking slots will fit on the lot. I think it'd be better to have a new building which does not make more cars park on the street. So he's okay with him putting up the building. The next one is Alex Goldman, who lives at 477 First Avenue. He has no concerns with Dr. Brooks building more affordable housing on the street. He doesn't feel it would be negative. Same thing. The new structures will be up to date and improve the aesthetics of the neighborhood, similar to what he has done with our home at 477 First Avenue. Those are all the letters in support.
Marvin, is there any comments online requesting public input during this time? We're going to have to skip the questions of the speaker portion on this. We'll now call those who have signed up to testify against the applicant's position.
Okay, same thing, a whole stack of letters. The first one is from Mark Beard, 32 Estramato Street. He says the subject property proposed use is so residentially dense that it does not even meet the standards for the R3 family district and is specifically prohibited by the R2 zoning. And he references a bunch of statutes in our code, which is why we're here for the variance. It's currently an illegal use and should not be allowed for consideration of a variance. The recent upgrade to a duplex did not acquire the variances required for the current two-family usage. Here are some of the noted illegalities. The subject is not large enough for a two-dwelling unit property per zoning with more than 17 unit per acre equivalent even before the proposed two-dwelling expansion. The past subject increase of 1 unit to 2 unit does not meet parking requirements. Subject does not meet setback requirements. Subject actually overhangs onto city-owned property of Riverside Avenue, and there was never an application to allow such, likely against fire access restrictions. A variance would have been required for all this and was never attained. The next one is from William Pierce, 55 Estramato Street. Strongly opposed. By my calculations, the lot is not even big enough for the 2 dwellings that are currently in place. It would require a slightly larger lot and would have required a variance to do that expansion, which occurred in the past year or so. I feel the lot and improvements are not currently in a legal state as of the request for the variance. It would appear the improvements are only partially on the subject tax lot, do not meet setback requirements, and are actually encroaching on Riverside Avenue. Thus, a lot line adjustment needs to be made before the owners can show what exactly the legal property is upon which the variance is to occur. A portion of the improvements encroaches on the north side of extremely narrow and substandard Riverside Avenue of 20 feet in width. If the fire department was appropriately asked to sign off on this as is normally required, I would bet they would not have allowed such. Since I do not see the required parking for a 2-dwelling property in place and notice the recent construction actually occurred on city property, I am confident the final must not yet be in place or was less than legally obtained. My reason for objection, it is illegal as presented. The city utilities are currently substandard to which those proposed improvements will be hooked. The density allowance for this property and all others which may come behind it will go contrary to the current zoning plans and comprehensive plan. It is my opinion if this were allowed, a precedent will be set which will cause many problems in the future for this area and the whole town. The variance is asking for a 4-unit allowance on a parcel which is not large enough for 2 without a variance. A project at more than twice the density seems outrageous. I am told R2 zoning allows a maximum of 17 units per the net acre. The subject tax lot is already above that with 2 units for a 5,000 square foot lot. To go to 4 units on this tax lot would make cause for allowing over 34 units to the acre. The R3 zone would accommodate that density. This 4-unit project is misplaced in the zoning, and I feel the neighbors know the infrastructure is not in place to accommodate such. Adequate parking, adequate sewer, adequate water, etc. are currently at a premium in this neighborhood. The next one is from Milo Yount. He's concerned regarding the availability of fire protection in this area of Gold Hill. The streets in this area provide limited access to firefighting equipment and emergency vehicles. 1, the property is located between Riverside Street and First Avenue. Riverside is an alleyway. There's no parking available. No large fire trucks could make the turn off Riverside to the affected property if needed for fire suppression or for emergency vehicles. This leaves the only potential access limited to First Avenue. First Avenue is very congested with numerous parked vehicles, especially in the evening hours. Number 2, I've noted the north side of First Avenue had 18 vehicles parked on that side of the street. There are only 5 dwelling units that face First Avenue, with 1 being unoccupied as it is an Airbnb. There are utility trailers and commercial vehicles parked on the north side of First. On the south side, there are only 3 dwelling units that face First Avenue, but there are up to 7 vehicles parked on First Avenue. There's 1 undeveloped lot on that side of the street. Noted 2 trailers parked on the south side of First Avenue. Noted 1 pickup that has not moved for a month. Number 4, the current tenant on 420 First Avenue has 3 vehicles parked on that lot. These vehicles are not parked on the street. If a variance is granted, you would have the potential of 4 tenants parking 3 vehicles for each tenant, resulting in 12 vehicles on that lot. I'd anticipate they would use First Avenue for additional parking, which would congest that street even more. If the variance is granted, it could be construed that members of the local government may receive preferential treatment. It begs the question whether the granting of a variance sets a precedent that the city will grant similar variances. Other developers will want the same treatment by the city. It could trigger litigation in the future. The zoning regulations were established by the city to benefit all members of the community, not for the benefit of developers. The city needs to be consistent in applying and enforcing the laws to protect all of the citizens of Gold Hill. The next letter is from Karen Clark, 584 Riverside. She is against. The property already has 2 dwellings on a lot that allows only 2 dwellings in the zoning. The owner is requesting the ability to develop 4. It is clearly not large enough for 4. As it is, the existing improvements appear to be very close to Riverside, a rather narrow and less than standard city street. The traffic alone that would increase with this variance is less than acceptable for this small residential neighborhood. It will set a precedent that could have serious effects on our infrastructure. As it is right now, parking and utilities do not appear adequate for such an increase in the residential usage of the neighborhood, other than what is allowed on the property now. The traffic could cause an abundance of extra usage throughout this quiet residential neighborhood. This sort of development needs to go in the proper zoning. I've been a resident of the city for 30 years and live on Riverside, and for the owners seeking to make a profit at the expense of the residents in this neighborhood is clearly not a good reason to allow for this variance. Next one is from Connie Teal, 44 Dardanelles. She is against the rezoning to a 4-dwelling parcel. I bought my home with the understanding of current restrictions and would not have bought next to a property with multiple units on it. It is a very small area and the street does not allow for additional parking that 4 units would require. Parking is already very limited. The property is directly across from my garage and the additional traffic could make use my garage problematic. The last one is from James Newstead at 28 Dardanelles. It would be a mistake to accept this proposal, which goes against what appears to be a reasonable municipal code, only allowing 2 dwellings on said property. Utility infrastructure is already subpar as it stands, and this will add further strain on the existing sewer and water lines. On top of that, Riverside needs long overdue repairs, and this proposed construction will cause further repairs needed, but also encroach on an already narrow street. We are not trying to set a precedent for future developers to overdevelop in areas which have existing zoning laws protecting our precious neighborhoods from home density saturation. The current code tables should be upheld and the proposal should be denied. This 4,800 square foot lot will not accommodate 4 dwellings legally, let alone accommodate necessary parking, which is already in short supply in this area. There are many lots that are properly zoned for such a project. Let's work together to enhance and not degrade our beautiful town. That's all.
The applicant will now have 5 minutes to rebut any of the opposing testimony.
I see concerns. Parking, I think we showed that parking's not going to be an issue. The fire, and I totally understand the fire deal. Again, if our parking is on the lot, that's not hindering that parking. We actually, if you look at that, there's 20 foot plus that runs from front all the way back. So I mean, that's not an issue. The fire department issue is parking on that street. I don't know what the ordinance is. We have people parking on the street on Riverside. We have people parking on Riverside. You know, that should be what should be stopped, and I totally agree with that, because I can't get around even. I drive through there, and you know, but I don't know how you guys enforce that in Gold Hill. But I mean, there is an issue with that alleyway only being 20 foot. Can a truck get through there, a fire truck? Yes, but if somebody's parked on the side, no. So as far as the utilities are concerned, I've been talking to people, and we have adequate water there. It's not, the water's not an issue. The sewer has been an issue with the new homes. We're dealing with that. Thanks to the city for that, is dealing with the sewer issue on there. So the utilities aren't an issue on there. But I do see the fire issue on there as far as trying to pull through. But even like that, we have both First Street and Riverside. If we can't get a truck in there, it's a 100-foot lot. A truck can go and deal with the back, just like any other lot that's 100 foot if there's a fire there, if they cannot get on Riverside. So I think that's a moot point also on it. And again, just reiterate the benefits, you know, for sharing all this utility stuff and all that. I mean, it is a huge plus for the city, tax-wise and utility-wise. You know, we're putting that many more hookups in. And as far as, you know, like I said, the traffic, if you read those letters, are the big issue. That shouldn't be an issue. So, okay. Questions?
It doesn't allow for additional questions.
Oh. You can ask me next.
Final staff comments. Does the staff have any closing comments?
Unless there are questions of the council, no.
Okay. So, is there a consensus to continue or closing the hearing? So it's what the script is asking us to currently do is whether or not we want to close the hearing and move to deliberation, discussion, and decision. Because we can't have that discussion within the public hearing. So is there a general consensus to close the public hearing at this time?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so closing the public hearing at, there's a weird glare,
7:02.
Okay. 7:02 p.m. And now we will move on to council discussion. Councilor Wilson, do you want to start? Do you have anything you want to discuss?
One of my biggest things is I don't understand how this ever got approved with the Duke House going into our alley. How is that okay?
So the part in the alley is the building that's been there since 1910. So, I mean,
So they haven't done anything, that's just staying the way it was?
I'm assuming it got grandfathered in because it's so old, that it wasn't actually a street back then.
Probably had wagon wheels, track.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, the what we have to prove, are there exceptional or extraordinary circumstances applying to the land building or use referred to in the application? Does the fact that it's already been approved, is that an extraordinary circumstance? It is. So yes, there is.
I mean, it's my understanding that when it's asking about extraordinary circumstances, specifically asking about extraordinary circumstances about the topography, about like the shape or the slope of the lot, it's actually about like the physical structure of the property.
It says circumstances or conditions that do not apply generally to land buildings or uses in the same district.
Or uses, right? So this would be a use.
I would call it a stretch. But I mean, that's just my general understanding of what, when I read that, that's what that means, is it's about the land or specific building.
And then B, that the granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights of the petitioner. I don't see that that's true. I don't think it's necessary to preserve the enjoyment of the property. And is there adverse effects to the health and safety of the persons residing in the neighborhood?
Personally, I mean, if you're
we all
asked,
discussing
yeah,
it?
I don't know
Just
if you're
get it
asking
done.
yourself or you're
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, I'm like, I'm just, you know, these are the three things we have to
Right.
weigh in on, is what we need to decide is if these three apply or not.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you were finished or if we're.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I wasn't
I'm
sure
open
if
for,
you, yeah.
for discussion. I just,
Well, if that's where we're going, I have serious concerns for safety. Yes, there's enough parking on the lot, but that's still 8 additional cars coming and going in that neighborhood. And when I was down there about noon today, the intersection of First Avenue and Dardanelle was almost blocked by delivery trucks to the store, vans and trailers full of rafts from the rafting company, and then Sawyer's big van, and then you go around the corner down First Avenue and there's absolutely there's no parking. But not only that, there's no visibility. I mean, if a kid could just pop out between all those cars any second, and with adding 8 cars coming and going off that lot is gonna add, how many trips through that intersection? Or the intersection on the other end of the road.
Safety is of a concern for me as well. There's no sidewalks over there, and I know traditionally driving through this town, where there are no sidewalks, people are walking in the street. And that is already a very narrow road to have two-way traffic with kids walking in the street.
Adding 8 more cars coming and going in that tiny little block.
no, see, the way I look at it is that it's only 8 cars, and they're not all gonna be coming and going at the same exact time every day. One here, one there, it's 8 cars, it's not. 8 cars spanned over the, if the when people even leave or come. It just, I don't know. 8 cars to me doesn't sound like.
It just, to me, it looks very, very full as far as the parking and the traffic over there. I have lived in much denser cities. And one of the solutions that they've had to do with the over density issue is to now assign color code parking permits that forbid anyone who doesn't live on that block from parking there, because they allowed the overdevelopment of smaller lots. The parking is a major issue. It seems to me, at least in that area, potentially those lots in and of themselves are overdeveloped, all of them.
I'm also concerned about precedent. If we make the variance this time, what's to prevent other people coming and saying, well, why can't we have a variance?
Well, again, to do this, it says that we have to find that all of these are satisfied. So that's basically what all we have to go off of is to decide yes, A satisfied, yes, B, or yes, C, or no A, no B, and no C.
And I mean, I could definitely see an argument potentially being made for the, where was it? I believe it was the first one, potentially with the uses. But other than that, I don't see that all 3 requirements are met. And if all 3 requirements have to be met for the variance, then I don't see it.
Are we allowed to ask Ryan a question during this discussion or not?
It does not say on.
If you're asking a question about process or the code, that would be acceptable. If it's really more input about the specific property, that should only happen.
Well, you can tell me if this is acceptable or not. This was approved already. So what is the process for going and saying, oops, sorry, nope, you can't do it, after they've already started it?
So I think the response is that there was a misunderstanding between the city and the applicant about what was approved. I never believed that I was approving 2 duplexes, but I think the applicant assumed that the approval was 2 duplexes. In that case,
It's my understanding that they have plans for 2 duplexes that they say were signed. So then would it be appropriate for us to make a motion for a continuance so that the applicant can then produce those plans that they say were signed and approved? Because without that evidence, I can't determine.
I think that would be appropriate if the council felt that that was a significant issue that would help them make a decision about the 3 criteria.
Because it's like,
So, also another reason maybe to consider a continuation is that I think we are trying to put together a planning commission, are we not? So maybe this is an issue that would need to be settled by the planning commission. I don't know what you want to do right there.
Well, in this case, that's what you're doing. You're acting as the
We are
planning
acting
commission,
as the
so.
planning commission.
but I would like to see actual plans, not just a piece of paper that's with 2 squares on it that say what it is. That says this is going to be a duplex and this is going to be a duplex, because multifamily means multifamily. Two families is multi. Doesn't mean 8, it means multi. So I'd like to see the plans that actually specify that this is going to be a duplex and this is going to be a duplex that are stamped approved.
And that's really what I want to see. I want to see something that says, because that's really where a lot of my confusion on this is coming from, is when did we know that these were 2 duplexes?
Yeah.
And if, in fact, that was the approved plan from the beginning, then the question is totally different than what it is if it wasn't what was actually approved.
So do we need to make a motion for continuance, or how does that work? Yes?
yes, you make a motion to continue deliberation. With opening the hearing to accept more testimony, which would specifically be the drawings from the applicant.
Counselor Rigney, before any motions are made, did you have any comments or discussion that you would like to include?
No.
Just in case you want to know, I think we are going to end up having a council meeting anyway, again, on the 17th. So I think 2 weeks to the next council meeting is more than enough time. So if you want to continue it until August 17th.
I'd like to make a motion to continue this discussion on August 17th, opening it up to public input to provide us with more information on the plans that were approved.
Just a clarifying point for the council, if you're leaving the record open for the applicant to submit more testimony, you have to leave the record open for anybody else to submit other testimony. If any other neighbors wanted to submit another letter, they should be given the same opportunity.
Okay.
So,
And anybody else that wants to submit testimony.
I'll second that motion. Roll call?
Counselor Wilson,
Yes.
Counselor Palmer,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley,
Yes.
Counselor Beechheim.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Then with that motion passing, I will pass the meeting gladly back over to Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question before you jump in. So I'm to bring the stamp plans down here and leave them at here, or do I want to give them to Ryan?
Just
Do I want to,
bring them to me.
okay.
And maybe any other documentation that shows more thoroughly.
Absolutely. Anything you
can
got.
provide, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, with that, expenses that we put out for the hookups and, you know, payments we made to the city and payments we made to, because we paid for the contractor and all that. Would you like all that stuff? Or development fees we got into it already?
I think I would just like to see what was approved. I don't know about you guys.
If there anything that was approved as far as planning that was signed off on by the city or the county, I would like to see that.
I'll get it here. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 6, consent agenda, 6-1, city council meeting minutes. Any comments, changes, corrections on the minutes?
Yes, I have a correction on page 2 of the July 7, 2020 meeting minutes. Section 11, third paragraph down, it says that Counselor Wilson remarked that Deb West, as a past counselor, rarely showed up. That sentence, or it says Counselor Beechide, that was actually Counselor Wilson that made that comment.
And I have already corrected that, and the official minutes for signing have that correction in them.
Yes, thank you. I have a correction on page 3, under the town hall at Sports Park. We got our dates a little bit mucked up.
And now that's why I wanted to, that's why the town hall meetings are on there, because this is what we decided in the council meeting. So,
I
yeah,
thought-
we need to
I
talk
thought
about
we-
the dates.
I thought we decided at the council meeting that we'd have the Whitewater, or the
Right, and,
wastewater plan is the last one.
See,
right.
and I thought that we had put the Whitewater plan as the last one.
Okay. So I believe, according to my notes, we had the first, which was the citizen committees on July 18th. Then the next would be Whitewater on the August 10th, and October 15th, the final, to give us more time.
And so what we actually did during the meeting was we moved the citizens committees up to the top, and then we just shifted them all down. And so, yeah, that's why the town hall is back on the agenda tonight, so that we can talk about getting the dates correct, because apparently there's some confusion.
Okay, good. Anything else? Finally, page 4, under 15, councilor comments, Councilor Beechide. Two-story brick house, that's actually Gustav and 2nd Avenue, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I said Main Street.
Yeah.
Okay. It is Second Avenue.
No big deal. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I will motion to approve the City of Gold Hill council meeting minutes, July 7th, 2020, with corrections.
I will second that motion.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call?
Counselor Hinckley,
Yes.
Counselor Beachhead,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Wilson,
Yes.
Counselor Palmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, 7-1, appointment to fill mayoral vacancy. I think we'll go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, so there's been discussion about whether we even do anything at all, or whether we appoint Deb West. Deb West is here tonight in case you have any questions for her, if you want to consider that. The point that some people have made to me is that we only have 2 council meetings left until the election, so we could just let things ride. We don't actually have to appoint anybody. It's entirely up to you. She is here at your disposal if you'd like to question her about anything and consider her application for the mayor position.
I know that one of the questions that a couple counselors had is that they didn't really know who Deb West was. So if it's okay with the rest of the council, I would like to invite Ms. West up to explain why she would like to be mayor pro tem.
Good.
Thank you, Councilor Hinckley. I'm here to volunteer for the mayor's seat in Gold Hill to help the people and the businesses of this town. It's really important to me. I've been here for the last 4 mayors, and so I'm well familiar with what this job being the mayor is like. And the mayor is often on the hot seat. I was added to the budget committee after I moved here in 2012, and so I am familiar with the ins and outs of the budget. I was here when we made some hires that had been kind of controversial, and when I was on the council, I did not vote for those things. I think I have good judgment because those things ended up being a real problem. But anyway, and the other thing that fascinates me is whenever I'm around town and talking to people, I have had more than 4 or 5 times people say, "You should run for mayor." And I kind of have laughed about that because I thought, oh, you don't know what a job it is to be the mayor. You know, as of people making comments about me not going to meetings. When I was elected to the council, I had told the mayor at that time that I would probably only be able to commit to 2 years, even though it was a 4-year term, because I had a son with a very rare disease. And I really, with a lot of trepidation, decided to go ahead and serve on the council with that, knowing it would take precious time away from my son James to be here at the council meetings. And because of his declining health, I was pretty sure he wasn't going to make it through that 4-year term, which is exactly what happened. I served 2 years, and I served 2 years because I have a lot of experience in the public sector, and so I thought I could be of help to Gold Hill. I support the sports park and the community aspects of the parks. There's a lot of things I've supported in youth sports in particular. And I love the people of this town. This is a great little town, and I love being involved in community affairs. And so for this, 2 meetings? I know, see, the last time I was on the council, this same issue came up, and we talked about, and I was an advocate of just put it on the ballot. You know, it's so close to the election, just put it on the ballot and let's do it that way, which I thought really made sense. But then it came up that it was going to come to the council, and I was encouraged to come down and talk with you because not very many people know me now. I mean, I moved here in 2011. Bucky Steffen was the mayor at that time. And that was an education. That was an education, what can I say? But the flair of this little town grows on you after a while. And I dearly loved our mayor, Jan Fish. I really wanted her to run for mayor again, but her health has declined. You know, and so I talk to a lot of people around this town, and every time I talk to people, I encourage them to come and serve. And then I find out, oh, well, I was the mayor back in so-and-so. I was a counselor. And I go, okay, are we running out of people that can do this job? Anyway, I'm ready, willing, and able to help out with things that need to be done. And if there's any questions, I'm open for questions.
Are you thinking of putting your name on the ballot for the next mayoral term?
I was. I mean, are you encouraging me? There's people around town that have been encouraging me to put my name on the ballot.
Just curious.
And so, you know, it's a non-voting position, which kind of puts me in this, well, do I want to be on the hot seat and have a vote or not? And, you know, I've talked to so many people that want a mayor that they can talk to, a mayor that's interested in what's going on around town. I kind of think I'm going to, if I put it on the ballot, it'll be for mayor. You know, so that the people of this town have somebody they can talk to. They feel like City Hall cares. You wouldn't believe how many businesses I have talked to since I moved here in 2011 who think that City Hall doesn't care about them. Did you know that? Did you know that the businesses think we up here don't care about them and their problems? That's a shocker to me. It really was. But that's, you know, that's the case. Have we showed concern and care for the businesses in this town and the people? I mean, I've talked to people who won't even vote because they don't think it'll make a difference. I'm kind of a one about doing your civic duty and how important it is. Anyway, any other questions? Yes.
You know, when we interviewed for the city manager role, I basically had one question that I asked all the applicants. I think cuts right to it. You know, what would be your top 2 or 3 projects or priorities that you would focus on?
Considering that I have served on the budget committee for years, my top projects are our infrastructure projects. That's the collection system, which is the sewer and the water. And then the other one that I have heard about over and over again, in fact, it was mentioned in this meeting today, are sidewalks. And it's true, we don't have adequate sidewalks for people to walk safely. You know, and that's unfortunate. You know, I had my son for the last 3 years of his life was in a wheelchair. And I couldn't take him downtown anywhere because the sidewalks were either absent or not up to snuff, you know. So those are the things I would be looking at. Well, and the other one is law enforcement, but we've got that one covered. But I am concerned. Here's my concern about law enforcement, is the fact that our budget is slim. You know, it is slim, and law enforcement's getting more expensive by the day. And so we've got to be considering that. I mean, the idea of infilling and building more dwellings is one way to help solve that problem. You know, the urban growth boundary that's kind of a big deal in that but we've got to make sure that the water and the sewer can handle more people. And, you know, we're on our way. We've made some positive steps in that direction. So I look at that and think, okay, you know, there's good things going on in this town. We've made some right decisions. Any other questions?
Not this time.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you for talking with me.
So, discussion, is that where we are? Yeah,
I can never remember, do we have to make a motion before we have discussion, or can we have discussion and then have a motion?
You should have discussion to figure out what motion you want to make.
so this speaks to that. You said there's only 2 more meetings before the election.
Well, there will be 3 if we're going to have one on August 17th now, right?
Right.
Because-
Right, but the term actually goes until the end of the year.
Until
so
January.
the
That's true, so there'll be
person asks, there'll
one
be-
more after that,
Right.
right?
Well,
Maybe 2. It
no,
depends.
isn't it the end of the year? It'd be October, November, December.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the election is in November.
I know, but they don't take, the person's still gonna serve until January 1st.
Right.
Because
Right.
the swearing in doesn't
Right.
happen until January.
Mhm.
So the temporary mayor will be serving through the end of the year.
So 11, 12.
Which I think is only one more meeting after the election in November.
Well, there's one the day of the election, or right around there, so it'd be 2 more meetings.
After the election,
So, plus if we have this other one that you just continued, so that makes 5 meetings that we'll have between now and the end of the year.
Is it appropriate to ask Brad, do you prefer to be mayor versus city councilor?
You know, it's not that much different. Just in
Except you can't
terms,
vote.
yeah, just in terms of management though, I found it fairly odd that someone who we've not seen for a year wants to come in and manage the process.
The son who was dying.
No, his
She had a
past
son
there.
who
I
died.
understand, but, you know, at the end of the day, we haven't seen her, she has no idea what our priorities are, what we've been working on. I just think that's an odd managerial move. If she wants to be mayor,
Brad, technically you don't have a say in this.
oh, yes, I would guess, but I was
So I was
asked,
just
I was asked
asking-
the question.
Yeah.
Well, the question was, what's your preference? Not her, what's your preference?
Oh,
To be
I,
mayor or city
I
councilor?
think it makes more sense to keep things as are and power it through and try to finish up some of these unfinished projects.
So you're willing to continue to serve as mayor?
Of course.
And then we would need to try to fill the city councilor position?
No, well, that's what I'm
Or
saying.
just
We-
leave it open?
Yes,
Not fill the
yes,
position?
the charter does say that we shall appoint, but there's no timeline on it, so, and we could wait until the election and see how that all plays out and appoint one of those people if you wanted. Yeah, it's entirely up to you. Yes, you can make him the mayor, and then we look for an appointment for the council seat.
Seems like we would have a duty to look for someone to fill the council seat and not just say it's okay for it to be empty, really. It just seems to me that if we're supposed to have 6 city councilors and we have an opening, vacancy, then we have a duty to try to fill it and not just say, okay, we'll just leave it empty.
And we
seems
have
to
done
me-
that in the past. That's how you got your seats. You were
Mhm, right.
replacing appointees,
Right,
so.
right.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we continue having Brad Studebaker in our, filling our mayoral position through the election.
Through the end of the
Well,
year.
through the end of
Through
the
the end
year,
of the
yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion?
Excuse me. I'm not talking much tonight. The charter says we shall appoint
Yes,
a counselor
yes.
and/or a mayor, or just a counselor.
We shall, either one, they're both elected, what's the word I'm looking for? They're both elected positions, so the same rule applies. I can read it to you if you want to have it right here.
Right.
And actually, Dwayne pulled out the legal dictionary, and shall is a major wiggle word. It says it almost always means must, but it can mean may. So
Yeah.
it's not clear.
So what it says is filling of vacancies. Vacant elective offices in the city shall be filled by appointment by a majority vote of the city council. Appointees to such office shall serve only until the next state, county, or city election, where at such time the city recorder shall accept nominations for the elective position. So it says shall, but it doesn't say you have to do it right now. So that's, But it says
intention of
the
charter
intention is to fill the seat.
Is to have 6 counselors and.
And so it's my understanding that if we appoint Counselor Studebaker to the mayor position, then we shall appoint to a voting seat.
Then we can open it up for applications and go through the process.
Yep.
Which I personally believe overrides the will of the people who voted Brad Studebaker into a voting position and takes that representation away from the people and instead allows the council to appoint their chosen representative for those people, when Brad Studebaker was the elected representative for those people.
Which is why you are in favor of appointing someone to the mayor position instead and leaving him as a voting member of the council.
Good point.
So, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Rigney.
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley.
No.
Counselor Palmer.
Yes.
Counselor Beachhead.
No.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. 7.2, consent to Counselor Hinklin's absence from August through October.
No.
Oh, nice.
So since it's my request, I will state it, and I have had absolutely no qualms about sharing my medical situation. I am set to have open heart surgery on August 25th of 2020. My plane tickets are purchased for August 19th. My recovery period is 6 to 8 weeks after that, and then I can fly home. The potential here is that even though I might not be healthy enough to fly a month from now, I may be healthy enough to be on video chat and start attending meetings virtually that we have previously allowed here. I will do my best to rejoin council as soon as I can, provided my health permits. But this is not something that I have an option in. I have delayed my surgery now since May due to COVID. So what I'm requesting of the council is permission for a medical leave of absence from the council, and I will leave my proxy with Councilor Beachhead so that the council should not be short quorum.
The property doesn't count towards the quorum.
Oh, it doesn't? I thought it did. All right.
And that will only be 2 council meetings during this period,
Yes.
as of right now. This goes to the same section of what creates a vacancy. Normally, you would kick her off the council for doing this, but if you give her permission to do it, then it's fine.
That'd be pretty cold. Danielle, did you say, are you going to fly to the surgery?
Yes, I'm flying to Chicago, Illinois for surgery at a specialty hospital,
Right.
and then I'll be flying back.
All right.
Will you be here on the August 17th meeting?
I fly out on the 19th. I was not aware that there was an August, because
Well, there wasn't until just a few
Yeah.
minutes ago.
I can come in for that. Yes, I can.
Okay, because I won't be here for that meeting. I have surgery that day, so I won't be here that day. So I'll have a quorum change.
So I can be here for the 17th to allow for your medical issues.
Okay. We could move the council meeting to sooner so that you could be here if you wanted. I mean, I don't think it's going to take them that long to provide the documents, but it's up to you.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can look at the documents ahead of time, so.
Okay,
I've heard all the information already. I just want to see papers.
Mhm.
okay.
So it doesn't matter. I can just give Ron my proxy vote.
But yes, I can. If I can make the 17th meeting, and then if we need to just adjust my request. Oh, no, my absence is from the 19th. So,
And we've
yeah.
already talked about it, you know, I'll be giving, it's not like she's going to be completely incapacitated, so I can give her the agenda beforehand, and she could submit her proxy vote as necessary for each of the meetings.
So I'm going to abstain from any motion or anything because, well, it's my request.
I'll make a motion to consent to Councilor Hinckley's absence from August 19th, 2020 to October 13th, 2020.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, roll call?
Counselor Bichai,
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley,
Abstain.
Counselor Rickney,
Yes.
Counselor Palmer,
Yes.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. 7-2, Town Hall,
Oh,
new
there's two
dates.
7-2s. That's a typo.
7-2B, Town
Yeah,
Hall dates.
so that is why I put this back on the agenda, because
Okay.
it occurred to us that we have had some miscommunications about which meeting is occurring when. There's also some talk about how hot it is right now, and do we really want to have a meeting at 6 o'clock in the afternoon? So maybe we change the meetings completely. It's pretty hot outside.
It is brutal.
I was actually thinking that since the wastewater and the whitewater, there's really not much to do on either one of them since it's already so late in the season, that we might move those town halls to October and November consecutive, you know what I'm saying? And just get out of the hot part of the year. Because I know when we were out there for the committees, it was hot. And I stayed out there for the full.
Yeah, that was nice.
Exactly, and I stayed out there for the full time, and I was hot and dehydrating.
Yeah. What do we think, gang? Push it back until life cools off?
Yeah, that's probably.
We don't have to make
I think that
any
makes a lot of
decisions
sense.
about it.
Right, neither one of them are, yeah.
Let's just move it out to
Yeah.
October, November.
October and November.
Mhm.
You know, my preference on the timing, because the whitewater was a more complicated issue, I believe. I mean, that's what our tough decision that we're trying to make. I say do that last.
Yeah, it's gonna take, I mean, somebody needs to present a lot of information.
Yeah. And the same with the wastewater. When we originally scheduled these dates, we hadn't made the decision to seek a new engineer of record, so it'd be preferable to push that one back until we have that engineer in place and they can participate.
Okay, so we'll work with the dates on that. We'll do it when it's cooler. Maybe the October date probably is not bad, and then maybe a November date. But we'll come up with something. And again, we're going to try to alternate the time and the night so we can get a cross-section of people.
So you make sure
Also-
to cancel that one on the website for next week?
I will definitely. Also, just while we're talking about it, it was addressed to me by some citizens that they, and since we're looking at November, December potential timeframe, they would prefer that we do these town halls not during vacations, because it's difficult for them to attend and get childcare and maintain their children during these things, and so they're not wanting to attend on weekends. They're not wanting to attend over summer break, over Christmas break, things like that, because they've got their own households they want to deal with.
I think December pretty much shuts down by the 10th or 15th.
Yeah, I
Because
think
we're all
October and
so busy.
November are
Yeah.
probably better.
So
So I would like to address that was a request that was made.
So we'll do it up till maybe the 10th or 15th of December, and then we'll wrap it. Okay, municipal court update.
Okay, so what I really want to ask you, because I didn't work here when this whole thing started about we need a court, we need a court. So what specifically were you expecting to get from the court? Like what codes did you want enforced? What were you looking for? Because now that we've done the research, a lot of the codes that we keep talking about, oh, we're going to use it to clean up people's houses. Well, there are no fines or fees associated with those codes. Instead, it's an abatement and lien process. Now, I'm not saying we need to get rid of the court. I'm just saying it's not going to be what you think it was. And we can totally proceed down the abatement and lien process. But, you know, that's why Rogue River just got rid of their court. And they had problems with the abatements and liens, too. That's why Jacksonville doesn't have a court anymore. I mean, there's...
So what did they do?
They just
Nothing?
refer everything out, yeah. They don't enforce their codes like that. I don't know, I'm gonna find out what they did. But I wanna know which codes, what was the impetus behind this?
I think the main problem was we needed deterrence. We had people scrounging the neighborhoods and ripping everything that wasn't nailed down. So,
Scrounging the neighborhoods and doing what?
ripping off people. So there was a
That's-
lot of.
I mean, and that's criminal.
That's
You
criminal.
can't do that.
So, and again, if we're looking for a deterrence from the court, the fact that there is one, I think, makes it feel like,
But what specific deterrents were you looking for? Because that's what I'm saying, our code book, I have a whole list of fines and fees that we can write tickets for. But when it comes to all the things you're talking about, getting people to clean up their houses and get the garbage out of their yard and mow their yards, it's all abatement and lien.
What about like the corner behind, behind Sawyer's, they're building sheds. I know you've heard about this. They're building the sheds, so they're not doing the setback, they're on the alley, you can't see when you turn. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Are you
So-
looking at that? No?
I don't think they have a permit, they
Just
just built some
so
sheds. They're building two of them, you can't see to turn out the alley because he built the shed on the very corner of the property, and it's not, he's not obeying any setback rules. If we don't have, we have nothing. People do
Right.
whatever they want because we do nothing about it. We gotta have something.
yes.
We need to have something. So how do we stop this guy from building his
Okay.
shed where he's not supposed to? We
And
already
so-
told him you can't build him here, and he's doing it anyway.
And so this is what I thought you wanted the court for, and I really just think that we did the whole process backwards. The first thing we should have done was not sign a contract with a judge. The first thing we should have done was updated our code book. So I'm not saying we get rid of the court. We can leave it as it is and handle the few tickets that are going to come through now. But what really needs to happen is the whole code book just needs a big overhaul, and everything needs to be spelled out correctly with things that we can actually enforce.
So is there a generic code book out there?
Yeah, there is.
So it wouldn't
There
be that
is.
big of a deal.
I've already been talking to people to get help on how to do this. I have an email here on how to start the process. And basically, we need to just go down and pick the ones that we need to fix first, and we go through, and then we'll have an ordinance that says, this is how the code book looks now. It overwrites everything else. And it should have been done before you started the court.
So how long do you think that would take to get a new code book?
Well, I'd like to do it at the same timeline. I mean, we're going to put the charter on the ballot in November. I'd like to start overhauling the code book at the same time, and let's just do it little by little over the course of the next year. You know, we have work sessions where we can talk them out. I'll bring you what we're working on, and we can nail it all down, and then we start the ordinance process, and we just get it one section at a time. And I hope by the time we approve the new charter in November, we will have finished the overhaul of the code book, and everything will be good at the same time.
And that is planned November 2021, correct?
Yes,
I just
November
wanna make-
2021,
I want to
yes.
make it very clear, because some citizens hear November, they think in
Yeah.
2 months. That's not what
Yeah,
we're
November
talking.
of 2021.
Okay,
So
so,
do we need voter approval to change the code book?
yes.
Well, and so this would be ordinances. Ordinances require public hearings. Yeah, it's all part of
And
it.
would we be, would the new codes would allow for fines for these things that we want to
Right,
change?
that's-
Like that,
yeah.
Rather than abatement. and
Rather than
lien,
abatement and
yeah,
lien.
fine.
And also what we do is, because some of their codes in here, they call out specific dollar amounts. And so instead, we need to change all of it to say, you know, fines to be determined by council resolution. So that way, we don't have to revise the code book every time we want to raise the fees.
And I
Yeah.
have gone through that fee schedule, and I can tell you that there are a lot of things I could do in this town and just give City Hall $100 a year, and I'd be allowed to do it, because I paid it. And the fines were set in 1989. They're not realistic.
Some of them are older than that.
And was the intention when the decision was made to start a court, was the intention that the fines collected would pay for the?
It was never an intention that the revenue of this court it was never going to be a moneymaker. It was more of a deterrent. We always accepted that
Not even paying for itself?
it's probably not going to pay for itself, but it was more of the fact that we had it and we could enforce things.
And I
How
think,
much does it cost to run the court?
It's the judge.
Right. So far, it's the judge and the clerk who will also be
That
paying.
wasn't much, though, was it? Like $2 a month or something?
Yeah, it's like $50 a month for the clerk.
And how much for the
The
judge?
judge is $650 a month. And we also had to pay her dues into the Judges Association, and we had to buy her robes. All that, I think, was like another $300. I think over the course of the year since we signed the contract, we spent almost $5,000. But monthly, it's, what does that add up to? $750 a month.
I think the other original intention when counselors were, because I was here during then, when we were first discussing a municipal court, we didn't at that time know we wouldn't get traffic, we wouldn't get parking, we wouldn't get criminal, that all of these different classifications, because I began the court process. As we started researching, we found, okay, well, a municipal court can't do this, a municipal court can't do that, and that as you start taking those things away, the idea that the court might one day pay for itself just diminishes.
Yeah, if I had been here just a little bit longer, I'd only been here like 2 weeks when I was tasked with finding a judge. If I had any idea that we weren't ready, I would have jumped through so many hoops to get us a judge.
Okay, so I've heard that we can't use, like, I think a lot of the other cities use the Central Point Court.
I have
Oh,
heard that
Justice
too, that some of them have a deal with them. I can find
So
out
maybe
if we.
look into that and see if
Yeah.
that's an option for us. Because if we can impose fines, we need to have some way to collect them.
Right.
So either we have to have a court or we have to.
Yeah,
be able to use
I just
the
wanted
court.
to, I wanted to bring this up to you now in case you wanted to consider getting rid of it, because, so the judge's contract that is signed, she was appointed through the election.
Right.
So now is the time, if you want to make that decision, we have a few more days left, you can decide to take the judge off the ballot, and then that would get us out of the contract with the judge without any legal issues or.
Here's a thought. COVID has changed everything, right? People are not doing business the same way they were. People are being flexed to be used as they're needed. She's got a legal background. I would guess that she could rewrite the code in about 20% of the time that us non-legal folks could. We're paying her anyhow. Why don't we task her for her monthly fee? She helps us.
I will ask her, but that is not what her contract
Yeah,
asks for her to
Well,
do.
but at the end of the day,
She's gonna add that
she
on.
gets
Yeah.
it that her job may go away, or she can help us cherry pick and prioritize our highest priority
I will absolutely
elements,
run it past her.
that she could focus on that. If she could get that done in a couple of months, which, I don't know, I mean,
But this has to go through the ballot, right? Or this has to be voted on?
Public hearing.
What has to be voted on?
The new code book? Does that not have to go on the ballot next year?
Oh, well, each section we're gonna do, it's not gonna be one chunk. We're gonna do it in a bunch of smaller chunks, and each one of them will be a new ordinance that has to have public hearings.
And
So
then-
it's not
then
something
they're
that's
just
gonna be
passed
done by.
but that's why I'm saying we cherry pick our priorities. We don't care about 80% of it. It's 20% which is causing all the problems in town. So
No, the
let's
whole
fine-tune
thing
those.
needs to be
Okay, so
redone.
whatever the number is, say it's 60% is kind of squishy. But we focus on the priorities that will make a
Yeah.
difference and use
And
her training to get.
It's
it
not
done
hard.
fast.
There are a lot of, the city of Phoenix just did a complete code book overhaul, so, I've got plenty of examples out there.
That's just being.
I just hate to see us make something go away that we worked really hard and it took us a long time to get in place.
Yeah, well, just because we end her contract does not mean our court is necessarily.
Right, we can always bring the court back. I'm not saying one way or the other. It's up to you if you want to have the court. I just want you to be aware that the court is not going to do all the things that you expected it to do, which, yeah.
I would like to personally request, as somebody who had to go through the very complicated process of trying to get this done originally, that if we do decide to close the court, that we fully close the court this time, so that the state, the county, everyone the paperwork is in properly, because that was part of the confusion in the beginning. I filled out all of the paperwork and everything, only to find out they never originally closed the court correctly to begin with. So it was a very long, drawn-out, complicated process that wasted both mine and City Manager Lowe's time.
However, on the other hand, as we go through and start revising the code book, the court could become more and more relevant, and if we just keep it in place, then it
Yeah.
will eventually
Right, I'm just
ramp
saying,
up.
if we close it, let's close it
I'm thinking we
properly.
just
If we
keep
don't.
the court
And
Get rid of the
just know
judge for
that,
now. And then when we need the judge again, then we can.
yeah.
And I believe Rogue River kind of is sending business to the Central Point Court, isn't it?
Right, right.
So
And
maybe
and
that
I
is
can
a
talk to their
bylaw.
city manager and find out what exactly they're doing there and what that option is.
To be continued.
Well, no, she needs a.
Well, I mean,
Do you need us to tell you? Do you need a vote?
we're going to have another meeting on August 17th, so if you want to think about it until then, weigh the pros and cons, check out the code book, let me know. We'll still be within the time limit.
So the decision, there's two decisions, close the court or not. Or keep the court but not have the judge for a while.
I suppose that's an option. We just leave the court open on the state books, but just not have court.
So that we don't have to go.
Which is what we've been doing for the last year anyway.
One of the alternatives that I would like, since this is out here, if we have a court, do we have to have court every month? Or could we set up as we redo the ordinances and not put necessarily you must pay this in 10 days, but instead structure it so that we can have court maybe twice a year where these things are heard and we're not having to pay on a monthly basis to a judge and instead can just have a small town court that's on a small town schedule?
Well, technically,
Yeah. That's,
I don't know, this all gets very interesting because we appointed a judge and signed a contract because no one realized that it was actually an elected position. So whoever, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be Judge Smetty, she's the only one running so far, but whoever were to get elected, we have to figure out how we approach that with a new contract. So that's something to consider too. Yeah, we could work out a different contract than the one we have now.
I'm just wondering
That's
if
based on
legally, are you
actual court time rather than just a monthly fee.
right? I'm just wondering if legally there is a certain time frame that if we have a court, that we are required to hold court.
Well, as far as what we decided now, that we're having them once a month, we just said, we'll just play this by ear, and if once a month works, then, so I don't think there is. We were gonna do them as needed to begin with, so. I'll do more research on that before we meet again on the 17th and find out what we can do with that too.
And I think Rogue River just was grappling with that issue, and they decided pretty much that quarterly was not very effective. Because you get a ticket and you forget about it in 2 months, and they just didn't find that
I think they found the whole thing ineffective, which is why they just killed their court.
Okay, yeah, if you could check with the Central Point Court, that would be good.
Okay.
See if that's an option for us or not.
and check with the city who just redid their book.
Yep.
Awesome.
I happen to know the guy who wrote that. He's the one that's been giving me advice.
Okay, reports. I wanted to just do a big shout out. You know, we have been saying we're a small, poor, little town. Let's when we spend money, let's do it smartly.
Excuse me, are we reports from counselors?
Oh, right, you're the mayor now.
Yeah, the mayor's report should be the first one on there. It's not.
Yeah, so like I said, we adopted a new thing, and there is actually
There is
no
no
mayor's
mayor.
report.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, gee.
You don't get to
Am I
talk.
marginalized? Do I not get to say anything?
So it's reports from counselors, yeah. And so normally this would be where the counselors reported on what they've been doing for the city. Yeah, I know it's,
Or
wait till
is
we get
this
to
a-
good of the order. I had to learn what that was too.
Is this a place where we can produce a new idea or something like that?
That too?
That too, okay. So I have a couple of things I'd like to say. Well, mostly just one. Responding to the comment that Deb West made about the businesses think we don't care. And, you know, I know that there's been a lot of talk in this council to try to, you know, make the town more friendly for business and to try to help businesses. You know, there was talking about trying to help them with the COVID grants and things like that. I was just wondering if maybe we could put somewhere you know, like maybe, lots of times boards will have like an educational session or a session where a place in their agenda where people can come and speak. So, you know, maybe it would just be part of public input, but invite businesses, maybe specifically reach out to a business and say, would you come and just, as part of the public input, maybe speak to the council and talk to us about your experiences as a business owner in this town, and talk to us about the kind of barriers or difficulties that you're having, and how can we as a city council be more responsive to your business. Just kind of make that a regular thing, just reach out to various businesses and say, hey, would you come to the city council meeting next week and during our public input, speak to us about your business in this town.
In an answer to that as well, for promotional, and correct me if I'm wrong, do we still have the budget line item for a Chamber of Commerce? Was that included in this year's budget?
We didn't budget anything this year. Yeah.
Okay. I know in previous years, there's been, I think, like $50 or $100 set aside by the city and the budget committee to encourage businesses to set up a Chamber of Commerce, to have a voice here in City Hall. And it's just not something that's been really taken up by the business leaders.
And that is one reason why we did the kudos to Jan and Bob Sears as a recognition of a downtown business that we appreciated what they did. And I think that we're going to keep doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, we need to encourage that. But I think we also need to encourage them to educate us about what we can do better to make life better for business in this town.
Well, that was one of the reasons why I was pushing so hard on that micro loan, because I was hearing that, hey, this is a real problem. We have no customers coming in. I'm going to lose my people. So we'll try.
So the other thing I wanted to, I guess this is more of a question, is where are we on the appointments for commissions? I thought you were going to make those decisions and announce that today.
Given that we had more than the minimum for parks and not wanting to discourage any good people, I think we'll just go ahead and include all of the applicants on the parks to be accepted onto it. The other three had short of the quorum, so they are still open, and I think we have a notice on the website there.
Still up there. I never took it down.
Super.
So can we make the appointment to the Parks Commission so they can get to work? How does that have to happen?
That's student, or.
That's what I just did.
You just made the appointments?
Yeah.
I don't think the people on the Parks Commission know that.
Well, we just did it like 2 minutes ago.
Where was I?
No, he's saying
I
when
have
he's,
no idea.
yeah.
We just talked about that. So we are letting people that if they apply for parks, they're all accepted onto the commission. For the other three committees, we don't have a quorum, so that enrollment application process is still open.
B
So
City
someone is
Committee
going to be-
is good. We have
B
it.
City is good?
Yeah, because we have no limit. Anyone who wants to can join.
Okay. So please communicate that on the website.
So someone will be contacting the,
We are going to be counting on the communication through the website.
to
And-
tell the people that they've been appointed to the commission?
Our city manager can do that, sure.
Oh, is the
That's-
city manager
that's
supposed
his
to
phone
do that?
calls.
Sure, I'll take care of it.
Well, somebody has to notify. These people are contacting me and saying, why isn't it on the agenda? And who's being appointed? Why hasn't somebody been appointed? So how does that process happen?
I will put it on the agenda for the August 17th meeting, and the mayor can appoint them officially at that time.
I would
Can-
think that inviting them to the meeting.
Yeah,
and
I will
then
invite them
appointing
all to the
would be
meeting
the
then.
proper process.
Right.
We're
and-
not allowing people in here, though.
Well,
not that
I've been
many
allowing
people.
people in if they're on the agenda, and
Yeah, Brooks was here.
have,
That
I think
was
there's
one
enough
person
seats.
versus 8 people. I think 8 people
Yeah, I
violates
think
the
8's a
spirit
little much in
of
there.
our distancing thing right now.
well,
they
we
still
will,
need to be
we can,
notified.
read all their names officially and let them know.
And they, I mean, and then, don't they need to kind of get some marching orders from the council? Don't we need to talk to them and say, this is what we're tasking you with?
Yeah, there is something that they've been tasked with. It's on the the job description. I don't have one of those right in front of me, but yeah. Did you want to appoint a council member liaison to the Parks Committee?
So there's the membership from the community, and then each of the committees has a liaison from our group. I would think that, let's see what people want to work on, and maybe everyone gets their first choice, and that works out perfectly. If not, then I guess input from the council, and then the mayor makes the decision. So why don't we talk right now? Who wants to be on which committee? I'm guessing you're feeling the B-City committee.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my baby. I have said that if I am needed to serve on any of the committees that anyone needs me to, I will do that. My preference is for B-City or Ethics. And you really don't want me on planning. I'm just not a construction person.
Well,
You really
again,
don't want me on
if we
planning.
can get ourselves
Yeah.
positioned with something we really like, then that makes the most sense. Janet, what would you like to do?
I would take the ethics committee.
Ethics, okay. Melina,
I'm open to whatever you want to send me to.
don't really have a strong preference. Bill?
Planning, or parks, or both. I got time.
So no one has said anything about parks.
He just said parks.
He said
Well,
parks.
planning or parks.
I'll take them
Like-
You
both.
can, you can be on two.
Right.
Well, no, sorry.
Well,
Public can be on too.
Ron's not here either, so.
Yeah, I would probably wait for Ron.
And
Yeah.
I'm also willing to work on ethics too. if
Perfect.
that's an interest.
So we kind of have a sense, so you're going to be working with the bees. We'll readdress it in 2 weeks, come up with consensus. So if you would please give the 8 people a call,
I will.
and is it realistic to think that these are going to be functional this year, or?
They're going to be functional as soon as you appoint them. They're all been waiting for their appointment. They're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, are we done?
I have my report from counselors. What I've been doing for the good of the city is keeping to myself and not bugging other people.
And I've been calling people to take care of the infantry squads that are bivouacking down on my city beach right under my house. Been doing a little bit of cleanup down there myself, along with, I've noted several city employees.
So cleaning up some of the beach area?
There's toilet paper all over down there, it's a mess, okay? I mean, there's people
Oh,
camping down there.
I had a porta potty put in at the beach park
Yes.
this week, so hopefully that will help some.
Yes, that was a good move, but it could turn into a problem. We cannot have any fecal coliform bacteria going down that river, or we're in trouble.
This is an ongoing issue. And that's why-
Summertime in Gold Hill brings.
And that's why we love Tony Wilson, because he gets in there and he gets
Yes, he
a
does.
lot of people moving on down, and keeps it clean. Anything else? Any mayor's comments?
I would like to remind people who are watching on YouTube that our deadline for upcoming elections for this season is October 25th. You
August
not only,
25th.
huh?
August 25th.
We have
Yeah,
time.
or sorry, yeah, August 25th, October's in my head. August 25th, you have to not only have all of your paperwork in, but your signatures done. So I would suggest if anyone's wanting to run, they get in here soon.
So we're still on reports from counselors, is that right?
Yeah.
Department reports?
I had reports, but I think I've scattered them throughout this meeting. Like, that always seems to happen. Things come up before I get to them on my list. So, no, I don't have anything to report.
I would like to thank Jessica for sharpening her pencil. Again, we were talking about you working smarter, using some automation so that our 3-person staff can get more done, have more time. Targeting the automated meters. Our last manager came in at what, 250 or 300,000, and we said, ooh, that's kind of steep. Please think around the corners here. Jessica working with Manny at Civil West, thank you very much, Manny, identified a great deal on another municipality that rotated, upgraded their system instead of 250 or 300, I think we got it for 40 with terms.
Yes, and I will be having a meeting with that guy later this week to find out all the details. Yeah, it's a good deal. I had to go for it.
And we have $40,000 in the budget to do that?
Well, that's the thing, it's payments. I only had to come up with 10 now, and so we've been selling off old equipment so we could come up with the 10.
Okay.
So, yeah, we should.
can make the payment. Does the budget allow for the payments?
Right, well, and that's why I have to talk to the guy this week and find out the rest of the details, but if it's annual payments, then we'll just budget that in for the next few years.
$10,000 per year, is that what that?
Yep, so,
And with the identifying who wasn't on the system and putting in meters and having them paid, we've already paid for a big chunk of some of the improvements. So again, this is a self-reinforcing thing that it really is going to help us out.
Excellent.
Good job, Jessica. The other thing I would say is fire season is upon us. We went up to extreme fire risk. We got 3 months. So be smart. You know, we actually have a little blurb in the water bill. Think through what you can do at your place. And keep an eye out. If someone is not thinking and they're doing a barbecue out next to the grass, say, hey, what's up?
Campfires on the beach.
Campfires on the beach.
Scary.
And, you know, any kind of equipment that can throw off a spark, that's a problem.
so this last section that we added, the good of the order, I had to learn what that was. Did any of you know what that is?
I assumed it meant adjournment.
Yeah. So it's a place where you can talk about the work that you're doing and what's good about it and what's bad about it. If you want to give kudos to somebody, it's also a place where I guess if you needed to discipline another member of the council, then this is where that would happen. But we're all good. We got no discipline tonight, so we can move on to adjournment.
So how is that different from council reports?
Well, like I said, council reports are supposed to be where the council gives a report on what they've done for the city since the last council meeting. That's what council reports is for, so that's why it's different.
So this includes what they've been doing as well as disciplinary?
No, this doesn't talk about what they've been doing. This is where, like, let's say,
Like you could say Jessica did this, like you just did, about the water meter.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas it's my understanding the counselor reports, so like Janet and I are both on the finance committee, so we might mention that we just signed AP tonight.
Right.
That's something that so that would be a report that we did.
But not good of the order.
Right. Good of the order would be, thank you, Janet, for signing your portion of the checks.
Okay, got it? Anyone else?